Hello and welcome to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode
48. No, 47. Getting ahead of ourselves. And, I think it's nice to say, well, it says right down below, but people listening, there are more and more people listening every day on iTunes and Stitcher podcast apps, which we are available on. So it's nice to say that this is being recorded on Friday, February 27th, 2015. Original title. Well, remember last time I talked about titles.
Right.
I don't necessarily like coming up with titles before. I said blue and black. Look over under this video. It's got 7 thumbs down already, and I'm pretty sure it's because people are pissed off about this dang on dress. And
people need to take a chill pill.
well, yeah, that's true. We'll talk a little bit about the dress. A little, because there are ramifications with photography, but not a whole lot. But, so I'm going to be, well, I already changed the title to Less is More, referencing something else. But, folks, pay attention to certain things that happened during this live show, and let us know if you come up with something that is a much better title. Like, for instance, Bokeh Balls, which came out of last week. And then we taught that to Trelina. I think that's how you say her name. Her daughter, her 2-year-old daughter, was walking around the house saying, Bokeh Balls. And using it properly mostly to refer to, well, she was referring to the lights. We'll be returning to the discussion about Bokeh Balls a little bit in the 4 lens in this podcast right now. Now, we usually start by talking a little bit about sponsors, and we realized last week that we went on a little bit long.
That's right.
Because we have some conversations as well. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. We do have a few sponsors that I want to first say. This is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace.com/Toby gets you 10% off your first order. But you don't have to worry about that at first. You can just go there, just try it. 2 weeks, complete free trial, no credit card needed. I was asked this week about a couple different places, including Squarespace, which is the best to set up. And Squarespace still is at the top of my list, not because they sponsor us, but because it really is the place to go to make these gorgeous, beautiful websites. That's all I'm going to say about it right now, because later on we're going to come back, split this up a little bit, and talk more about Squarespace. Other sponsors? I know you're trying to just get, it happens like it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, I feel prepared. And then it's 5:25, and I'm like, what? And so we sat down a minute ago, and we're like, oh, it's time to do this thing. You ready?
Yep. We have a workshop coming up in Seattle. So if you're interested in learning about photography one-on-one with us, go ahead and go to photorec.tv/shop or /. Which one is it?
Forward.
Okay.
You said it wrong in the Lightroom video, too.
photorec.tv/shop to sign up. And
it's April 4th, all day, evening dinner, very relaxed. It is for beginners, but people with a little bit more experience are welcome to come. I'm sure there's going to be things to learn.
Yep. Also, if you would like to join us in other photography-related travel experiences, traveling with McKay Photography Academy to Greece this September. Are there any spots left?
There are, I believe, some spots left for the Greece trip, and this is all we're going to say about it, but I just want to show you for a second one of the hotels that we'll be staying at. This is from the doorstep of the hotel in Santorini, which I think actually technically we won't be part of that trip, right?
Oh.
Because we have to leave a little early for one of them dang on weddings, photographing weddings. I'm just kidding. So I just wanted to show that spot's still available. There are spots still available for the New Zealand trip as well. It's just going to be a fantastic experience. It feels a little far away still, but getting excited because I've started emailing back and forth with some of the people going on the trip. So
yep. And the photography, the Academy folks are going to have a baby animals tour as well. Is it in June?
That's in June. I think it's the first weekend in June. I haven't put the link to the stuff right down below the video, but I'll do that after the live show.
And we may actually join them on that trip too. It all kind of depends on how the wedding schedule pans out. So that's a possibility.
But it looks, I mean, the video that came out of last year, baby wolves, baby, what is the big thing? What was Tonka? I'm drawing a blank.
He's bison. Bison.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And lastly, before we start with the actual, the rest of the content, we have released this week, which I guess this is part of our week in review, our Lightroom tutorial episode 2, where I walk you through how to edit a picture in the develop module of Lightroom, and I go through some of the basic panels, kind of show you some tips and tricks to use when editing your photos. And we have a collection of presets that comes with the video that you can install into Lightroom.
We did not record it live, so don't worry about that.
Nope. So go ahead and, again, photorec.tv /shop to have access to that if you haven't already.
Right. I'll just say, I said this last week that I don't feel like I'm very good at selling myself, but I'm working on it and I feel like I'm getting better. First off, I think there are some people, some new to the channel, that don't know around as a professional wedding photographer, a good one, not just one of those people that calls themselves a wedding photographer. And your command and experience working with, is it safe to say tens of thousands of images now in Lightroom when you add up all of the weddings that you've processed and gone through?
Yeah, I would say safely over 100,000.
You think you've edited over 100,000?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So,
I think so.
She knows what she's doing. And I was editing this video and realizing that for $2.49, it was an immense amount of awesome information presented. I mean, the feedback we're getting has just been really great. Thank you for that. You got any kind of feedback at all, please let us know. Anything, because there's been some that come in that's been great and constructive that I think we'll use to make the next one even better. But I was just editing this and thinking about how much content is packed in here, plus you get the presets and the tweak kit.
For $2.49.
For $2.49. This cup of coffee in Boba Fett's head cost me, well, actually we didn't buy it, but I think that co-op coffee is expensive, so.
Anyway.
So it's good. I'd love to see a couple sales during this podcast. And I think, in the future, we could have a little giveaway too. Not this one, but we need to talk about that and give it away. And next week, they're great. You also get to, I'll put the coffee back down. You will also get to be part of the Lightroom support group. So you got questions, you've watched it. You want to have answers. You want somebody there who's going to help you. You also get that. And for those who are supporting us at the higher levels through Patreon, thank you. Really appreciate it. It's so nice to see. We've been happy with the forward growth, the growth of that.
Yep.
And you have access to a support group, and it's good. So let's move on
to our week in review. So along with the second episode of our Lightroom tutorials, you also published.
Sneaky, like. Okay, no, so go ahead. Sorry.
Just. You also published the Nikon D5500 review.
That's right. That went out this week. I feel like I was a little hard on the camera in that I didn't act very excited about it because I was really thinking of it as upgrade path from people in earlier models, especially the D5300, and there's just not quite enough there to say yeah. But it is getting down in size to the SL1 on the Canon side. So it is a very small DSLR. It's got that smart touchscreen, and the image quality out of it is really good. It's a good camera if this is the direction you want to go. The other part that I think kind of tempered my feeling about it is it's such a crowded marketplace now. So, but if you're interested to hear more about that, go watch that review. And yeah.
Yep. Another exciting piece of content that we published this week was Roy McKee's Frozen Bubbles tutorial. He wrote a blog post on our website, photorec.tv, so go check that out. Really cool. You're going to try it yourself, right?
Yes, I bought glycerin. I wandered around the drugstore until I found it. I actually had to get 2 people to help me find it. And then they're like, you're not going to blow anything up. But it's a really simple post, and it's been freezing cold, so this looks like something fun to try to do. And thank you, Roy, for adding that to the site. And the pictures also you took are great. And also what I think is wonderful is that, no fancy lens, no macro or anything. It's just a 55 to 250. And you got these cool pictures. I'd like to get a couple like that as well. Somebody else said they were going to try it with a macro lens. I'd love to see results from that. We'll see.
Yep, cool. All right, and the week ahead, so we already mentioned it, but our 3rd video in our Lightroom tutorial series is going to go up. So look out for that. We'll send an update with the newsletter, and we'll post it on Facebook and things like that.
Could you give a 5-second, actually, all right, like a 30-second summary of what is intermediate editing?
Yeah, so you can take your photos to a whole nother level by using just the sliders in Lightroom, but Lightroom also has a slew of other tools, that where you can make more fine-tuned and what's the word I'm looking for?
Really dial in?
Not dial in, but localized adjustments. So, there are times when you need to dodge and burn, where you need to fix little things here and there. And Lightroom has a lot of tools, a lot of different tools that can help you really change and edit lots of your pictures in a very localized way, I guess. I'm just rambling. But, so that's my preview for you. Definitely going to be a lot more content. So, yeah, look out for that.
Great. And I'm thinking either in this next one coming out or the one after that there's going to be a bonus video as well. So
our big plans for this series is we are going to release all the videos one by one, and then we're going to release them all as a bundle. And have some extras here and there. A lot of them will come with each video. Each video will have their individual set of extras. But if you have purchased all of them and you can show us proof that you have, and we have some extras that that you haven't gotten by the time that we release all of them, then just let us know and we'll be happy to just provide you with that. So, yeah, so, and if you are interested in purchasing Nikon gear, their rebates expire on the 28th, which is tomorrow.
That's right. So those nice rebates that are offered on all of the basically all current cameras and older ones and lenses too, expires tomorrow, February 28th. So if you're a Nikon shooter and you're thinking about picking something up, now would be a good time. When will rebates be back? We start to head into this. We might get some new ones in the not so distant future. But as we start to head towards that summer season, we usually see less rebates until we get back into the fall, because summer, at least for the Northern Hemisphere, wedding season, all kinds of photography seasons, picking up gear, and camera manufacturers feel less inclined to give any kind of deals.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to our new segment. And to get it out of the way, because this kind of hot or very cold topic for some people.
What do you mean by cold topic?
I don't know. Like either
turns them off?
Yeah. Either you hate it or you really want to talk about it.
Well, can I just say why? This is some like 3 different people sent this to me last night.
Yeah. Within the span of like half an hour, right. I should say.
The virality of this,
yeah.
The way it went viral, the speed with which it went is pretty amazing. They sent it to me, I looked at it, I was like, it's a blue and black dress. And then you walked in and were like, that's a golden and white dress. And I was like, no, wait, what? And that, I think, is why, well, and I might be stating the obvious here, but it's the fact that some people are totally like, no freaking way, gold and white. And some people are like, are you smoking the crack? It is blue and black.
They're clearly smoking the crack.
But so that is what has been boggling people's minds.
Yeah, and me. Just the idea that
you're on the wrong side.
Okay. I'm fine being wrong. Listen, I'm fine being wrong. my eyes still see white and gold. I should just say, there's like no, I'm not going to even try to say that that's not true. That is what my eyes see. I know I'm fully wrong. I understand that.
Let's just make sure anybody who's been happily living under a rock and missed this, along with the llamas yesterday, anyway. So here is a picture of the dress, as basically everybody saw it. Started on this one woman posted it on her Tumblr account. I think she was trying to buy it for a wedding or something and said, I'm having trouble. I don't remember actually how it started, but somebody posted it somewhere, and then it just went kabow. And so let's talk a little bit about why your reasoning of why you thought it was gold and black, and to make this photograph related, we gotta say, oh my gosh, I can't find that. Oh, I know what I'm doing again. I'm doing that same thing again where I look at the other mouse.
Okay.
The white balance.
Right.
So talk a little, because I have nothing really to say other than that dress is blue and black.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I've tried like squinting my eyes and like scrolling down and slowly scrolling back up and like telling my brain that dress is not white and gold, and I still don't see it. But so to me, it seems like it was taken in a room where there's a lot of sunlight, daylight, and that the white balance, that the dress is in the shade and the white balance is off. So the camera, it took a slightly blue picture. The light in the picture.
So you had part of your brain that was using your camera knowledge to say the white balance is wrong in this image.
But what actually happened, I believe, is this image is ridiculously overexposed. So the blue, which is supposed to be a very rich blue, doesn't actually look blue, and it looks purplish or light blue, or lavender even. And the yellow light in the room is making the, what do you call the...
Temperature?
No, the other...
Ambient light?
The other fabric on the... I am thinking of the word in Spanish in my head.
You should just say it in Spanish, because I bet there's some people who will watch this who know.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't see, I just don't even see black at all. But anyway, yeah, it's just interesting to me how I have the same eyes that everybody else does, but my brain perceives different colors. So it just makes me think what other things I perceive a certain color, but in actuality are a different color.
Well, I think there has to be pretty specific circumstances, and here's what this neuroscientist says about this. This is from this Wired article. It's linked down below in the show notes. What's happening here?
The lace. Trelina said, sorry.
The lace.
Yeah.
What's happening here is your visual system looking at this thing, trying to discount the chromatic bias of the daylight axis. So we have in our mind what color is coming from the daylight. And I guess that really is kind of straddling the line for some people when their brain, not consciously, unconsciously, are taking into account the color of the background light and the environment. Yeah, that's there.
So
they either discount the blue side, which you must be doing, and are seeing completely. The white and gold.
I discount the black side, I think, because I see some blue there. Okay. I will give you that there's lavender or blue there, but no black whatsoever.
Did you know that the top part of the dress is see-through? Does that change your opinion at all? Yeah. See, I noticed that today.
I didn't notice that.
On the Amazon picture. I see some people in the chat room talking about this. The sales of this dress have skyrocketed some 300%, and they said they're going to come out with a white and gold version now. I mean, come on, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this company. You bet. Go market that stuff.
Yeah.
So that is how that black part up above is much less black, because there is light coming through it,
but even
not
at the
just
bottom,
reflecting.
though.
Okay.
I don't see the black. Yeah. But I get it.
Can we agree on this? It is a horrible photograph.
Yeah.
Also, can I say this? And this might show my sense of fashion, current fashion. I thought that this was some thrift shop dress, because I was like, wow, that's some old school looking stuff there. I had no idea it was like a current style looking thing that somebody would wear.
It's not.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. Okay, I think we've talked about this dress enough.
Well, one last thing though, I just want to say that I think this is possibly a story, or the most viral story in a very long time. And also, this, just people have gotten so annoyed at it. So with virality also comes
Sure.
a short life.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But there's science to it, so it's interesting as well.
Right. Which I think where people's fascination of it comes from. And there's a picture.
Let's move on before we get more thumbs down.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay. And also reminding, take a moment, hit that thumbs up button if you are enjoying this podcast. All right, next on the list is, Petapixel has been poking around Adobe's servers. Every once in a while I do this. I'm like, let me see if I can find something about a camera, and I'll go to like Nikon's website where it says D5500, and I'll type in D7200 instead. Never works for me. Somehow Petapixel has found some early screenshots of Lightroom 6 and that photo merge feature coming soon. So we've got that right here. There's nothing too shocking about the way it looks like it's going to work. You're going to have your multiple exposure images. You highlight them, you choose photo merge, and then you have the option of HDR and panorama. So we're getting this confirmation that these features are going to be in this next version of Lightroom. And then you're presented with this little merge dialog box, which looks fairly bare bones. So that is, we talked last week, as Scott had mentioned, being less inclined to buy Photomatics, which is a very full-featured HDR program for $99. There may still be some reasons to buy that program. Again, this looks like you can say align images, get rid of ghosting, de-ghost results, as it says right there. And I also read that the first time as like deghost, but we'll skip over that. And then it says apply existing developed settings. So again, not Photomatics, but there it is. The other thing I want to point out is it says photo merge panorama. No fusion panorama there. I always look at the camera when I'm showing you the screen. So that's coming. The rumor was March 9th that we will hear about Lightroom 6. It will still be offered as a standalone program, and of course those who have purchased the Creative Cloud, which we discussed last week, will automatically be offered the upgrade. It'll just happen. You can get a little notification up in your little cloud icon that looks kind of like an infinity thing that will say you got a new update to your program.
Yep.
Okay.
So next article is from the New York Times, and it's titled Peter Lick's Recipe for Success. Sell prints, print money.
Can you remind us who Peter Lick is?
So you guys might remember the picture titled Phantom. Is it Phantom?
Phantom.
Mm-hmm. And it's a picture of a canyon, and there is some coming up on the screen in a second, and there's some dust being lit up by a beacon of light.
Beacon of light.
And
I'd say beam of light.
Beacon, beam.
Mm-hmm. I think you should just say it in our Spanish, and then we can just call this a bilingual, the world's only, as far as I know, photo bilingual podcast.
I'll think about it.
Okay.
So the gist of the article is that, Peter Lick is essentially a master marketer.
Yes.
That his pictures aren't necessarily fine art. In fact, they aren't, according to many art valuers. I'm struggling with vocabulary today, apparently. And that people that do buy pictures at the very high prices that he sells them for basically end up losing money in the end. But then there are some people that just love the imagery that he provides, so they're happy with their purchase. But essentially, it just goes to show you that you don't necessarily have to be the most unique, interesting, best photographer ever. You just have to be a really good marketer and figure out how to sell to people.
Right.
So it goes into all of his sort of business model and how he trains employees to sell the work.
So the key of his model is limited edition. So, it's kind of funny, you know, you think about that for paintings, that makes sense. Somebody made a painting and then, well, you can make unlimited copies. So, well, anyway, limited editions. So, you know, he makes a picture and he says there's going to be only 4,000 of these prints sold. You're going to get one. And I think the price even goes up as they sell out. Or in the case of the one called Phantom in the Slot Canyon, he said there's going to be one of these. And see, this is where it comes down to, and this is what we can take away from this. It is more about who you know than what you do most of the time.
Yeah.
Because he's got these marketing people that know these other people, and they say, hey, this is going to be a special thing. And so it becomes for the people buying, not so much they want that picture on their wall, but they want that picture that nobody else has. And they don't really care what it is. In this case, it happened to be that. Somebody else, it could be something different. But just a reminder also that they didn't mention this in the article, but at that same time, remember that other dude sold one that was $6.5 million and 10 cents. So
what other dude?
Another art photographer, the one who does the really cool time-lapse stuff that I you know, really liked. It was the picture of the stumps in the middle of the night with a flash.
You know, I wonder actually, you know, when I was reading this article, it made me wonder whether or not that whole, you know, the price tag on that image, the really big price tag, was a marketing technique, and that,
certainly.
I mean, I don't want to question that whether or not somebody actually bought it for that price, but, you know, it's definitely possible. At least it was kind of suggested in the article that, you know, that it was possible. So, and that is not to say that he's not a good photographer or that, you know, I mean, he's found a market that values his work, and he may not necessarily be educating them completely about the you know, the full value of his images, but they are happy with their purchase, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
And so.
Right. And that's all, you know, that first line you said there, that's all any of us want to do. Oh, shit, I just forgot what you said. You said basically that he has found a market for himself and people willing to pay. Yep. That's all we all want to do if we're photographers trying to make money. Most of us are probably not trying to hit these individual prints at $6.5 million, but you are trying to find a market for the work you're doing at an amount that's going to let you live, make a living. Switching gears, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to do it because it's not on the rundown. It got stuck on the other rundown. Is 5D Mark IV rumors, or maybe 5D Mark X rumors. Now, I'm going to put a huge little asterisk symbol here because this is from Canon rumors labeled as a CR2, which, you know, that's one of those things that he hears from maybe a reliable source. But anyway, here are the specs of what the replacement to the 5D Mark III may be. 18 megapixels full frame. Just for the record, the current 5D Mark III is what?
21.
21. Thank you for knowing that. ISO 100 to 204,000, 61 AF points, all of those cross type. What does the 5D Mark III have? 51? No, that's a 70.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's got a lot.
But it's,
12 frames a second, dual C-Fast cards, we'll talk more about that in a second, and 4K video capture. I showed this to you, showed the 18 megapixels to you, and what was your reaction?
Why are they dropping megapixels? That was my first reaction, which is, I mean, it's not a big deal in the long run, but I guess if it comes with a better sensor and fewer megapixels, then I'm on board with that.
And that's the temporary title of the show. Less is more. I didn't put a question mark after it. But so, you know, the thinking is with fewer megapixels on there, and other cameras have done that.
Yeah,
they
can cram better pixels into the sensor, so.
Better, yeah.
Hopefully.
Better low light capabilities.
And dynamic range is what I'm hoping.
Yes.
Because low light, for me, it's already there.
Yes.
I mean.
Now, I'm just going to go out and say it. I don't think I'm putting myself out on a limb. We are not going to see a camera with these specs. Nope. Maybe some of them, but not all of them. This is some random test camera that they were working with, or you know, it's just these specs don't add up for me, and I just don't think we're gonna see it. Dual CFast cards. You want to see what those are? Those are lovely little. If I just had one hardware switcher, I could just switch without having to click on that. That would be awesome. These are basically the next generation of compact flash. 32 gigabytes for 180 bucks right now. Oh yes, sign me up. Now, I will say that, you know, as I first looked at that and was like, oh, that stinks. But then I was thinking about, you know, Canon has had issues with the SD card slots in the 5D Mark III slowing it down. And so maybe they really do want to get away from that. But I just do not see 12 frames a second and 4K video and 61 cross-type points in the replacement to the 5D Mark III. It's just a little strange to me.
Yeah, and also, and this might be a silly question, but it'll also be compatible with existing CF cards, right? The not as fast ones.
I'm sorry, I was just reading the comment that said, I just saw the thing about the gold, white, black, blue picture. Can you explain in depth, preferably via Photoshop? Thanks, Kivo. You missed it. Sorry, we didn't explain in Photoshop.
I think that might be sarcastic, actually.
Okay. Okay. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It'll be compatible with old CF cards, right? Or do I have to buy a new set of cards if I want to shoot with?
I think so, but I don't know for sure. I'm going to say I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
They do look different than CF cards.
They do look a little different, but do they? They look a little fatter.
Yeah.
But they're metal. Metal makes things
All right.
better.
Well,
CFast
I'm going to be
2.0
selling
memory
some
cards.
CF cards in the near future, I guess.
I know. I really don't think that this is the time that we're going to see a forced upgrade on memory cards like this and other things. They certainly might see some of these features. And the 4K video, I still keep coming back to where I'm leaning more towards that since this camera is going to come out, this being the 5D Mark III replacement, not this specs that I'm reading. 4K being very possible in this camera if it comes out later in the year. My initial, last year I said no 4K if it comes out in the spring. But it's not coming out in the spring. So, it'll be interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just mention one more thing, that the beyond the high ISO performance that we really want to see is that increase in that dynamic range.
Yeah.
You know, we really, Canon folks, it's not terrible, but it's certainly not as good as what Sony and Nikon are putting out right now, and really allowing you, especially when you start working with a picture in Lightroom, as you've been showing, really allows you to recover detail from the shadows, and from the highlights. Yeah, I had somebody write me the other day and said, you know, my friend was taking pictures of the D800 and I was taking pictures with, I can't remember if it was the 5D Mark III or it might even be the 7D. And all was was exposed, no loss of detail. And on mine, I couldn't see the sky or I couldn't see, some of the shadows. And I was like, that's the differences in dynamic range.
Yeah. Plus, we don't know how he was actually shooting. But
that's true.
So anyway,
we don't know where the metering was, right? Mm-hmm.
From SLRlounge.com, Lumix is going to come out with a new hybrid camera. So is this going to be
Panasonic?
Panasonic, that's right, with a new possibly Lumix camera. So is it going to replace the GH4 or is it going to be a new sort of, okay.
GH4 sounds like it's getting a big brother. That's the rumor. And going to be in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, so serious, but it's probably going to still use that micro four thirds sensor, which is just really nice for shooting 4K video. The pixel binning and all that stuff, which when I start talking about that, I start talking out of my butt because I don't completely understand all of that. But it looks like it could have some amazing high ISO quality to it, which is something the GH4 struggles with a little bit. But all things else, the price-wise, the value of the GH4 is awesome. So the value of this camera, even in the $2,000 to $3,000 market, or $3,000 to $4,000, which was it, could be pretty awesome as well. 16 stops of dynamic range, clean ISO up to 12,800. So when you start, I think this is going to compete against the Sony A7S, which is at that price point if you want to do 4K internally. But produces very, very clean files at higher ISOs with that full frame sensor. So, it's nice. Got a lot of choices, a lot of cool stuff coming in the pipeline.
Yep. And a new product, a new interesting product on Kickstarter. It's called the Kit Sentry, and I just accidentally closed the window, so I'm going to reopen it back up real quick.
So you can talk about it.
And it's called Tile product.
Right.
It's, you basically attach this little device to your every piece of gear that you have, and it will track it for you. So how far do you know what the reach is?
The reach is like a room, basically, room sized.
Oh, seriously?
So yeah, I think the first initial ones are Bluetooth. So basically, the idea here, you're not getting a sense from this video I'm playing, but they've already reached their goal. I think they started this very recently. This is the f-stop guys who make really good, nice bags. Adam uses their bags in the interview with Adam Furtado, travel photographer. We talk about that stuff. So basically, you put these little NFC tags on all of your gear, and then you have this little app that you run on your phone, iOS or Android, that tells you where all your gear is if it's within range. It's got to be, I think the early stuff is Bluetooth only, so it's got to be within Bluetooth range, which is pretty short. Is that right? I could just read it here for you. NFC, RFID tags, field device, Sentry app, Sentinel mode. So you get these different modes. Yes, so there's the H1, Bluetooth range only. That is short, 100 meters. And then there's the Bluetooth plus cellular, which global. So these little guys can report back via the cell towers to you. $139 is, no, which one starts? I think 69, only 6 left if you're interested. But it's interesting. We talk about, well, there's a couple things that come to mind. One, we use a piece of paper before we leave for each wedding that has all of the gear we want to make sure we're leaving with, and we check it off and like physically touch to make sure we're not leaving the house with anything, without anything important. And at the end of the night, we go back through that list.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. It would be pretty awesome if we pulled up our phone and said, oh, your light stand is still back inside. And we'd be like, okay, let's go get it. That'd be cool. But, we've got limited ranges here. And also, you start to think about, I think it really works for one person doing a certain kind of job every time, because there's some times where my camera bag needs to be packed with stuff for making videos.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother shebang. And I start to think about all of the tags I would need to add, and the number of times. It would get expensive quickly. Yes, it'd get expensive quickly. The number of times I've left the house without an SD card. Am I going to tag all my SD cards and batteries? So
right.
It's neat. But
will you be buying it?
No.
Me neither.
Nope. I will not be buying it right now. But I love the f-stop gear guys. I want one of their bags. Their bags are... And this is interesting. If you have a fairly stable kit that you take with you often, and you're somebody who has trouble keeping track of your stuff, then maybe you should think about it. Yeah. But my general Kickstarter warning, we talked about this last week, I think. The delivery date is August. Just, remember you're paying for things long before you get them, and you've got no recourse if they are late, as some things that right. I've purchased on Kickstarter at times have been very late.
Yep. So moving on, lens rentals, they do some pretty crazy, awesome lens testing where they take the whole lens apart and do all kinds of tests. And they recently reviewed the 11 to 24, which we talked about last week, right?
Yes. We mentioned last week the bokeh balls. We mentioned onioning in those bokeh balls. And some of the comments, and I think we kind of said this as well, but some of the comments were a little critical of being critical of it because of that. Because with a lens that wide, you're not really going to be looking, you're going to have to hit really high magnification levels in pixel peeping to really see these issues.
Right. And my argument too, sorry to cut you off, was at 11 to 24, that's a pretty wide focal length. you're not going to be going for like f4, let me get this shot real close and try to get some bokeh. You're going to want to get a large depth of field and a large scene. And even if you're shooting it at f4 and you're shooting a wider scene, a landscape, you're not going to get any, you know, you're not going to get a shallow depth of field. A lot of stuff's going to be in focus. So, you know, yeah, I mean, that is some serious pixel peeping.
Yeah. So, what you started to say, before we started talking about bokeh balls, because that's so distracting, is they also have some, not only do they take lenses apart, but they also have some really high-end lens testing gear. If you like to get in on the geeky side of lenses, and sometimes I do, Lens Rentals, their blog, Roger's post on there are fantastic. Anyway, short write-up, did a lot of testing, and said it is sharp. And this makes sense. Canon knows they have to put out these good lenses if they want people to be buying their 5DS and 5D SR cameras that are coming. You know, that needs to be matched up. And I also was, you know, happy to say that I didn't tell you this, but you know, you poo-poo my 24-70 fairly. But at 24, Roger says that sucker is sharp.
I don't poo-poo it. I just, I have opinions about it.
I feel like you've colored my opinion of it a little bit, and that I don't use it as often as I should for the money I spent on it and the quality that it gives me.
Well, it's really sharp. I am not denying that. That lens is sharp. It's really sharp. This is the
24-70 f2.8 Mark II we're talking about.
Yeah, it's super sharp. I just think that, you know, it can be a little bit of, I don't know, just can make you lazy when you're shooting because you can easily zoom in and out. And
mostly zooming out.
Mostly zooming out instead of really thinking about your composition and trying to think of how to.
Well, that's the big zoom versus prime debate, right? And so to explain a little bit more detail, you know, I think there are times where you get into a situation and you can't quite fit the people, especially in weddings, especially shooting in smaller rooms as people are getting ready. And you're like, let me just zoom out. And I'm speaking personally. Sometimes I don't notice that I'm at 24 and fairly close to people. And I should say this, that this used to happen. Doesn't happen anymore. Every shot I take now is perfect. Is sometimes, you know, you end up at 24 close to somebody, and on full frame, 24 is wide and is not flattering.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyway, they say the 11-24 is sharp. Since we're talking about it, I didn't put it in the rundown, but last week they took apart the Canon 100-400 Mark II. That's the new lens that was part of my big zoom review, and said it is one of the most engineered lenses they have ever seen. They're really impressed with, basically, because they're a lens rental place, they see lenses get used up much faster. People are hard on rental gear, and then it comes back in, and so they see things that wear out very quickly. And they've taken apart a lot of lenses and know what parts wear, and looking at this one, they're like, thumbs up, really well designed. It is going to last. It's built to last. So that's good to hear. That's nice. And again, we get down on Canon. Not some of us get down on Canon because we feel like the sensors are not up to par. Producing the lenses, remember, there are at least two parts to these systems, camera and lens, and there's other things that are parts too.
But, you know, at the end, you know, they can have really nice lenses, but if they don't keep up with other manufacturers' technology, then, you know, people like me are going to start considering other options. So
I don't want to come across as a Canon apologist, but I want to make sure it's a balanced approach, because I think beginners here are like, oh, they're terrible, they're so far behind the times. And
no,
not necessarily.
No.
Okay.
So the Sigma 24-14 and the 150-600 contemporary line lenses are going to be shipping in March. So if you have a pre-order in or planning to pre-order it, that's probably when you're going to get them. And then I guess you had said previously that the Sigma 24-105 was discontinued.
I had heard that.
Yeah, but as it turns out, it is just, it's going to be back in stock soon. So there you go, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be back in stock and selling soon. We took that lens to Italy, really liked it. It is significantly sharper than Canon's version and sells new for about the same price as Canon's. But there's so many of the Canon copies around used where, I think they're having troubles. I don't think it's out of stock because so many people have bought it. I think they made a really small production run and have focused on getting some of these other lenses out the door, and then they're going to go back to it. Yep.
That's right.
You're reading the chat room.
I am, yes. But I know what's happening next, which, do you know what you're going to talk about next?
I don't know what I'm talking about next. Lay it on me.
You're going to talk about Squarespace, right?
Oh, I am going to talk about Squarespace. So we mentioned Squarespace at the beginning is the sponsor of this show, and we thank them for the sponsorship. During this week's critique that went out, I ran a little commercial. Because truthfully, this is a commercial, but I don't like to just sit here and tell you that it's wonderful and your pictures are going to look better. That's all true. But I like to show you what you can do with it. And I showed you how easy it was to make galleries. Will you put up the show notes on your screen while I do this over here? So first thing that I want to do is bring up the Squarespace that I've been working on and using as an example and talk a little bit about what's going on here. So I'm using this flat iron theme that comes with these different things. I'm going to just show you a couple things really quickly. I'm going to show you how to set a home page. One of the things that's really a pain when you're working with websites is you say, oh, I want to change the page. You got to change index.html and all of that different stuff. So I want to show you how easy it is to set a home page. Right now, if I mouse over on the side here, you can see that I've got a work page and a personal page. And I set up this kind of cool splash page right here. This is what it looks like. Got my name. This is the page that people land on first. And I got a little button that I can click. And notice not only do I have my editing capabilities over here on the right, but I also have my preview capabilities, on the left. And on the right, I have my preview capabilities where I can see what it looks like. Now, oops, I got to move that just a little bit. You know what, let's do this so we're not wasting any space. This little arrow right here, so this is what this flat iron theme looks like, and I've got a couple more. If you watch the critique, I've now got in here weddings, and I've got industrial. I also changed the thumbnail so they fit nicely. And I'm going to click this little arrow, it brings this down into here. And now I need the pages, which takes me back here. So first thing, I got this, if we're on this thing, I got this personal link up here, which I'm deciding that, I don't necessarily want people to go into my personal stuff, but I still want it accessible to, maybe I want to send it to my mom or something like that. So I want that to exist, but I don't want it to be in this whole system. So I'm just going to drag it down and drop it in the not linked section. Notice my menu is updated. It's just home, work, and about now.
So you could conceivably have two different portfolio pages within the same system that you just send to different people, right?
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's very cool. And you could even take it a step further, and I can come into my and say, you know what, if somebody stumbled across this, because it is just summer, I really don't want them to get into here, because maybe they'd see pictures of my adorable niece right here, and I just don't want that for some reason. Well, I could just set a password, and only people with the password then will be allowed in. So it's just that easy. I'm just going to discard it because I do want people to see pictures of my cute niece for right now. But the other thing I said is change the home page. So right now this work is the home page, and the splash page, that kind of landing cover page that we're talking about, just gets left there by itself. So I'm just going to come over here to this little to this little gear icon. I'm going to come down to the bottom, and it's as easy as clicking set home page. I'm going to confirm that and save that, and now it's got the little icon right there. So I can click home, I'm back on that splash page. I can click work and get into the work, and I can go to my about page as well. The one last thing that I just want to show real quick is when you're inside one of these pages, you've got all of the little thumbnails sitting over here, and you can, if you're working with a theme, I thought this was really cool. If you're working with a theme that's going to automatically crop your pictures so they all are nice, square, and fit together, a nice puzzle, you can give Squarespace a little bit more information about how they crop it. just by dragging this to the focal point. So then Squarespace will make a square around that point. So you don't end up with these pages or these pictures that look really strange in thumbnail form because somebody's head is cut off. And it's, you know, it's their torso is part of the thumbnail, and when you click it, it's a portrait orientation. You don't have that. No, that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. Those couple of quick things. I think that it is the best place now. You're always walking that line between ease of use and customizability, and I think Squarespace does an amazing job of giving you the tools you need under the hood. But above the hood, I'm running that analogy's going nowhere. It's easy to work with, but there's all of this power underneath if you need to get to it. We thank them for the support. If you are interested, go check it out. As we said, free 2-week trial. Squarespace.com/Toby will save you 10% off when you do decide to order. Thank you.
Yep. And now we are going to move to our discussion section.
Yep.
Which is this week. Let's see. I lost my place. Are touchscreens making us slow or dumb?
Yeah. You know what? I wanted you to have a camera in hand for this.
Here's a camera.
Yeah, but it's the one I got. It's touchscreen. So my question or my concern is, and I was really thinking about this as I was reviewing the D5500 with that smarter touchscreen that allows you to swipe left and right. I like touchscreens, but I think here's the premise of my argument. I think for beginners, they are friendly, but they don't invite you to develop that muscle memory of switching your settings quickly using the manual controls on the camera, so that when you need to switch from one setting to another, that they just don't they don't set that up. So what I mean is, when you're a beginner and you're like, oh, I need to change the aperture, you got the camera up to your eye, you bring it away and you do doot 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 on the touchscreen, then you're back. That seemed like a short period of time where I was just pretending to do the touchscreen, but there's could be a lot of stuff going on. Whereas if you are not using the touchscreen, you've got the dials and you are comfortable using them, you say, oh, gotta switch my aperture, gotta switch my aperture, gotta switch my shutter speed, gotta switch my ISO, and you've done it. It's fast. You don't disconnect yourself from the camera, and it is better. That's what I'm saying. Counter argument?
No counter argument. That is basically my opinion about touchscreens. Right. I just, I think it's nice when you're just transitioning from a point and shoot or a smaller camera where you have to touch, that has a touch screen or it has like buttons and you're not quite used to the dials and things like that. And, you can still have that while you are learning how to use. But being able to use your manuals, it's just so much faster. It just lets you be really quick when taking pictures. It lets you anticipate things and capture them on the spot. And I don't think that they're necessarily making us dumber. I think there are some benefits to them. Like, I like it when I am shooting video and I can double tap my subject and I can focus on it.
And, I'm slightly playing devil's advocate here because I do love the touchscreen at times. Set up on a tripod, landscapes, picking points to focus, doing all the other things like in the menu system that you need to do at times. Touchscreens can be very useful. But I worry that they are setting up this disconnect and not requiring people to learn that you can change things quickly with the physical controls. Mm-hmm. Now, you could make the counter argument that that's okay because it helps people just change settings in general. Don't read the next thing yet. It helps people change the settings in general and eases them into all of the different options available. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm curious. What other folks say about this. Cameraplex is saying touchscreen's better for beginners. I think Cameraplex, you're the one who showed me that Kickstarter deal. Aurelian noticed that the light looks much better. We did
Good
change
eye,
the
Aurelian.
light.
A little bit.
A little bit. Christina is in charge of that. Yeah, I think it does look better too. So, yeah, I guess that's it.
Yep, but we have another discussion topic actually. So, which we've talked about
this is a shorter one too. We've talked about it before,
past.
but I get these emails from Quora from time to time. That's Quora. That's that site where somebody can post a question and different people answer. The thing that's neat about the site that's really grown in the last year or two is that sometimes you'll get questions that have to do with really famous people like Elon Musk, and they'll come and answer them. So you get to hear it right from them about different things. The question is, should you watermark your photos? And as Christina has said, we've had this discussion before to some degree, but I liked one of these answers, and that was, think about all of the photos that you really like. They probably don't have a watermark on them.
Right, yeah.
Which I think is an interesting thought.
And another really good answer that I saw from somebody here who chimed in was, if you are really concerned with people stealing your pictures, make sure you don't upload any high resolution images to the web. Upload pretty low quality images, not low quality, low enough quality that your picture looks bad, but low enough quality that somebody can't print them. There's always going to be theft on the internet. People can easily remove a watermark, but I think that the risk of you making your images sort of seem a little bit, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Just not as, I think the value of an image sort of goes down a little bit when you see a watermark on it. That's kind of, I feel like because of the overuse of watermarks, that's kind of what's happened to them. Yep. So I think unless,
you make a judgment about the picture sometimes based on the fact that it has a watermark?
Yeah, I do. Right. I think that there are places for watermarks, like maybe when you're submitting to, I was going to say when you're submitting for a competition or contest or something, but then, the judges will probably not want to see the watermarks. So it's really a personal preference, but I think it's a really good point to think about all of the photos that you love and that have inspired you, and whether or not those pictures are watermarked. So.
Right. Yep. So let's summarize this quick discussion. And that was upload smaller resolution files if you're worried about people swiping them. Another one that we've mentioned before, and I keep meaning to follow up and do more work with, is lens tag, because you submit your serial numbers, and that information is written into the metadata of most pictures. And sure, people can strip it out, but lens tag scours the internet and reports back to you if it finds your pictures being used anywhere. So that's kind of a neat thing. And sure, it would absolutely be a hassle and a bummer to have to kind of, go to somebody and say, you're using my picture, you owe me a bunch of money. Or it might not. They might be like, yeah, here, it's $500. Although probably if they took it in the first place without asking you, then it's probably going to be a little bit of a hassle. But again, you also have to decide what your point of your reason for putting pictures online is. Is it to sell them? Then, all right, maybe consider having a watermark on there. Otherwise, put them up there and let people share them around.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we are moving on to our question portion of the podcast. So if you have any questions and you're on the chat right now, feel free to post those right now. We'll do our best to pick some of the questions without getting too distracted. Right now we have one question to talk about, and then I'm going to pull some off the Facebook page as well. So do you want to get us started?
I'll get us started with Andrew's question from earlier this week. Is photography a future career? Yes. Very broad question like this. We've actually talked about this, I think just a few episodes ago. Somebody wrote and said, my parents are telling me, my friends' parents are telling me that photography is a dying industry, don't get into it. The industry of creating visual images is only going to grow. It may change forms somewhat. The cameras we use might be very different. We could get back into that discussion about whether or not we're all going to be shooting video and then pulling stills out of it. We don't have to do that because that's not what you want to do. But that's not going anywhere. It's just not going anywhere. Maybe in 100 years, sure, robots will be doing all of that work. But I don't think so. Drone cameras. It has a future, and it certainly has one that you can be part of. Now, another way to approach this question is, do you mean that it is a completely saturated market because every Joe Schmo has picked up a camera?
Yep.
And can take a bunch of pictures and can tell their friend that they're taking a bunch of pictures and they'll shoot their wedding for them?
Right.
You want to talk about that a little more?
Yes, sure. So it's going to be harder to, I think it's going to be harder to make a living. You're always going to have to work really, really hard, as photographers have had to do. But yeah, I definitely think there is a future in, there are careers in photography in the future. And I don't know, I mean, I think that the industry with the just availability of gear is changing, and so you know, there, like before, you could have a really solid career as a stock photographer, and there are stock photographers who have just shot so much stock photography that can still do that, but it's really hard to get into that just because there is so much stock photography out there. And so there are careers that'll be a little bit harder to get into, but in terms of being able to do it, if you really love and have a passion for photography, I think it's completely doable. It just depends. And there's so much content on the internet to get you started.
Yeah.
And to, you know, skip a lot of steps that you probably, that a lot of people had to go through because they didn't know what to do when they were first trying to start a career. And, you know, they give you the tools to kind of, you know, get a head start.
Yeah. And I also wonder, are you talking about like being your, you know, working for yourself or working for somebody else? You know, so yeah, I think we've discussed this enough, but that in itself is a really interesting discussion that I'm thinking more and more about every day as I work for myself now, and the vastly difference of working for somebody else. So, Ruby and Roy, thank you so much for your help in the chat room.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Okay. Equosenos? I'm sorry I didn't say that very well, but you're wondering about the 24-70 Tamron or the Canon for a 5D Mark III. Well, first question is, do you mean 24-70 Mark II from Canon or Mark I, the older 24-70? I'll say this, I have an old video on my channel of 24-70 reboxing and sending back, because remember that was the first 24-70 I tried. And you know, first let me say this. A lot of people out there have had very positive experiences with that lens, and it is a good lens, and for not half the cost, but for significantly less, it offers f2.8 and it offers image stabilization, as VC, as Tamron calls it. My experience was really poor. The quality was bad, and I had a lot of lens body communication errors using that lens. And it just scared me away a little bit. Now there are other Tamron lenses I've used, like that 150-600 was perfectly fine. But I said, you know what, I'm making money at this. It literally caused me to, you know, miss a shot or two in that it would just suddenly freeze up and stop working. I'd have to disconnect the lens and put it back on. So I said, I'm just going to go up and spend the extra money for the Canon, and it has been an absolutely lens. Gave up VC, which for wedding work, I don't really care about image stabilization a whole lot. It's nice in the 70-200, but most of the time we're shooting people, and a lot of those times those people are moving, so VC doesn't really help.
Right.
So it depends on what you're shooting and what your budget is, but if you're serious about this and you're making money from it, the sharpness, the quality, the colors, the contrast from the Canon are better. I'm going to say noticeably better, but it is not a huge amount. It's just better. So if you get a good working copy of the Tamron, I'll say that it's a very good value. So, all right. I saw, Cameraplex's question. What was each of our first cameras and how much was it?
My first camera was the Canon Rebel XT. That was my first camera with the kit lens. And then the next lens that I got was I think it was the 50. And then the Tamron 28-75. I think, yes, that was the third lens that I had. Yeah, and I don't remember how much it was. I think it was like $600 or $700, the Canon, the XT.
Probably a little bit more than that.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. My first camera was, I was just thinking about this, is the first camera I was really excited by was a point and shoot film camera. And I was a teenager. And I wasn't super into photography, but enough that I wanted my own camera and wanted to take pictures with it. And I was super excited. And I remember I came home with it. I was home for like a few hours with it. And I did something that really pissed my dad off. I don't know, something stupid. Like I left the water on in the sink and it overflowed or something. And he like grabbed it and threw it on the ground and it broke. And I was like, oh, a teenager. I was like, oh, my camera's broken. Mom took it back to the camera store and said, we brought it home and it was broken. Can we get a new one? And they gave her a new one. My first real camera was a Canon Film Rebel, which I also had problems with broken, but it wasn't because my dad threw it down on the ground. And I did a lot of traveling with that camera. I shot both a lot of slide film and color film as well. And I just had kind of kiddie lenses for it. I had 70-300 and 18-50 or something like that. So, and then I went through a progression of, for a while, I carried that around along with like a point and shoot digital, because that was really all there was for a while, until I got the Rebel XT as well. And then that, was enough of a camera for me for many years. And I want to stress that again too. I think there's all of these cameras to choose from, and we look at these higher end bells and whistles and feel like we need them, and really more than 3 or 4 frames per second and decent focusing speed that are in these low entry level cameras is plenty for so much of us. We are not pushing these cameras to their limit more than the cameras are, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Nope, I don't.
I know. It's that dang on chat room.
I know.
So I just wanted to say that. So yeah, the Rebel XT, and that was fun trip down memory lane.
Yep. Somebody else asked, this is not necessarily photography related, but it's tech related, and I think it's kind of an interesting question that we have discussed in the past. We've had heated discussions in the past.
Heated discussions?
Bevan wants to know, what are our thoughts on the world becoming too reliant on tech, and are we becoming dumber by using tech so much for the things we should know how to do without it? When does it stop? So I'd like to go first. I don't think that we're becoming dumber. I think that we are becoming, well, in the sense that our attention spans are changing, for sure. They're getting shorter. Prime example. It
just say it.
Well, no, I mean, I
Drinking
think
your coffee.
Well, one of the things that I think about is how much time do we really need to save? I mean, these things, these apps, these pieces of gear and technology the goal is to save time so that we don't have to think about doing things, so that we are, more efficient, more productive. But how much time do we really need to save? And are we really saving time and, actually doing enjoyable things and other things or are we just focused on the technology?
Well, I'll say that's some people's
sense?
goals, to save time with these things. Other people's, it's just to be more connected, to enjoy life, to document life. And I don't have an answer for this question. But I will say that I think it's really interesting. With an education background and being in education for many years, I think our definition of what teaching is and what learning is changing a lot. And you think about something like the Amazon Echo or Google or Siri, where you can get an answer, a fact answer to just about any question in a few seconds. That is amazing and kind of mind-boggling from 5 to 10 years ago. For those who don't know, Amazon Echo is that little speaker that just sits in your room and listens for you to say something like, "Hey Echo," or I don't remember what you call it because we don't own one, but I wouldn't mind having one. Like, who was the 4th president? And then it tells you. So there's no need for that kind of memorization anymore, and I think that's good. Where we're going to go with this, and I'll say that I think we are being, there are certain technologies that I think we are becoming reliant on. I can't come up with any examples though, that I think make us less better people. Well, like the connectedness of Facebook for one. One of the winning world press photos, I think it was one of the winning world press photos, was a commuter subway at some, typical city. Every single person is looking down at their screen. Every single person.
Yeah.
So I think that is not a good thing.
Yeah.
And, I see that on college campuses too. Kids, they're connected still to their friends back home, and they're not making real connections to the kids around them, students, people. And I think that's not a good thing. So let me just dance around that question because it is a heavy question, I think.
It is a heavy question.
But thank you for asking it, Bevan. Did you see Andrew's question? He wants some tips for his first paid portrait photo shoot. Christina?
Sure. I don't know. This is going to sound kind of lame maybe, but just be really confident and friendly. I think your mood will reflect a lot on, in the pictures, and it'll have an impact on how your clients feel.
Yeah.
So just be kind of upbeat and have the sort of mood that you would like to see reflected in your photographs.
Right. I'll add that, it can be kind of hard to project confidence when it is your first shoot. So practice. Get your dog, get your lady friend, get somebody to sit in a similar situation with a similar way you're going to set up lights, or maybe you're just going to do this with natural light, and just practice enough that you're like, okay, this is basically what I'm going to do, so you have something in mind going in. And then, I feel like this at weddings as well, we talk about this, there is this kind of feeling of being hurrying, being fast, being quick. Relax, take a step back, move just a little bit slower, and I think that will help project confidence, not like this hustle and bustle where you're going to seem nervous even if you're not because you're moving so much, and just kind of like, all right, let's try this. And I think you say a couple great things, like why don't you do a couple quick tips of like, well, your intro to couples, of saying, we're going to try some different things. I'm going to ask you to do some different poses, and if one feels funny, just let me know, and that probably means that it looks funny, and so we're not going to do that one.
Well, I think one of the first things that I would say is to the subjects, to the clients, is that the first 10 or 15 minutes are going to be warm up, and they will be a warm up for both of you or for all of you. But telling them that, I think, will make them not worry too much about what's happening. That you can say, so don't worry about them being perfect. I'm gonna warm up, and so you put kind of the responsibility on you and not on them, which will make them feel a little bit more relaxed. And then just people aren't going to know whether you're doing something right or wrong. I mean, the chances are is that this is their first time being photographed in this kind of setting. So even if you chimp a lot, or I'm trying to think of other things that I've done that make me feel self-conscious, or take a picture, it's like, oh, that totally doesn't work. You don't have to tell them that. You just can look at it and just in your brain be like, oh, that totally doesn't work. Let's try something else. But they're not ever going to know whether or not you are getting what you want, or if you're not getting what you don't want. And every picture doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to come up with a small set of good pictures that they'll like. So just kind of trying to, which can be hard, trying to stay relaxed is probably the best thing you can try to do.
Yep. I was smiling a little bit early there on because my brother messaged me and said about my first camera, and what I did to piss my dad off was, pretty sure you flooded the whole damn kitchen. One of his earliest memories. He is a little bit younger than I am, and I think that is what happened. So he had a right to be really mad. I had made a little fountain in the sink. Like, I'd set up a bunch of pots and then like put the water on so it made this neat fountain. Why? I have no idea. And I left the sink plugged up, and we went to the mall to get the camera. And when we came home, the water had been flowing out of the sink, across the kitchen, wooden kitchen floor or tile or linoleum for hours. It wasn't good. Oh well. I see people talking about bicycles in the chat room.
Bicycles.
Yeah, I like my steel bicycle. One of the big things around here is fat tire biking on the snow trails, which is fun. So, were there more questions from Facebook, or are we wrapping this up? Because it's just about that time to wrap this puppy up.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chat room participating, lending your thoughts from time to time, spending your Friday evening or Saturday morning with us. And thank you to all those who are watching this afterwards. We appreciate it. We read your comments. We appreciate those. Even the mean ones, although sometimes I'm like, oh, mean comment. Remember, if you have a particularly salient comment that you want people to see, everything that you're writing in the chat right now goes away when this video goes unlive.
Unlive.
Yeah. So take a moment and leave a comment or two over there. And if you enjoyed this time, 92 people in there right now, hit that thumbs up button, please. We appreciate that.
And if this is your first time watching us, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And check us out on Instagram and Twitter.
Right.
And our Facebook page.
That's right. All of those places are links. And if you want to be part of the support group, get your answers answered, get your questions answered quickly, take a moment and pop over to photorec.tv/support. It's all laid out for you, exactly what you get for each of those dollar amounts. Thank you.
#white and gold.
#white and gold. Did you see, we can just keep running this all night.
Yeah, you guys can go.
While we cook spaghetti dinner and all of those other things. Did you see Angie's post of the dog that was white and gold in the support group?
I did see it.
And said,
yeah,
I want this black and blue puppy.
That may have been Trelina who posted that.
Trelina's was the llamas.
Oh.
The two llamas were running around.
Well,
here's what I liked about the llamas. I didn't follow this. I didn't hear about this until after the dress. But then I did watch a clip of the video of the llamas running around today. And I loved that it was a black one and a white one. And there were a couple times where the black one was running right next to the white one, and it looked like his shadow. I like that.
Well, there was a picture that a friend of mine posted of the white and gold Power Ranger. And it's something along the same lines of my favorite Ranger was the black and blue and black Power Ranger, and it's a picture of the white and gold Power Ranger. And that encapsulates exactly how I feel, because here's a picture of a blue and gold suit, and
blue and gold.
No, I'm sorry, of a white and gold suit, and it's actually black. And well, not that suit, but the other suit. But that's what I'm seeing, basically, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, that's why my mind's a little bit blown about this whole thing.
Well, mine isn't, because it's so clear to me, but I guess it is that you and so many other people are like, see something totally different. Wouldn't it be nice to like switch eyeballs for a minute? Or I guess it'd be switch that little part of the brain that's responsible for processing. And then you wonder. That makes me think about, I heard there is a scientist who says that he's going to be able to do human head transplants in the next couple of years, but the ethics of this is highly, highly debatable. It's kind of gross, actually, to think about. Just grossed myself out. So.
All right. My belly's hungry.
Is it? All right. Yeah, that's right. Next up, Roy says, cooking with Christina. You could have a cooking channel.
I could.
You could.
I would.
Something to think
It
about.
would be a lot of cooking failures. I mean, I am a pretty good cook, but lately my experimenting with like bread making and donut frying has not been. I mean, it's been successful, but really messy. So I wouldn't be very pretty to watch, for sure.
All right, folks. Where's that button that I pressed to make it all stop? I think it's over here somewhere. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning. Thanks for watching. Then I have to press this other button because